connection. This webinar is really timely and reminds us that this Christmas we can all help build safer, healthier homes for the youngest victims of domestic abuse by supporting them and their parents to get the help and support they need, so everyone is seen, heard, safe and supported where they're impacted by domestic abuse. So this morning, as you can see, we're going to hear from Alex and Hannah from Safer Places, and also Becca and Andrew from the For Baby's Sake Trust. We'll have time at the end then for Q&As. So as Daisy said, please do pop them in the Q&A or chat. And then we're finished for 11 o'clock, and do follow up with any questions that are there that we're not able to answer within this hour's space. It's a difficult topic, talking about domestic abuse, so please do keep yourself safe and reach out support after the webinar if you need to. So now I'm going to hand over to Alex, who I'll leave Alex you to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Judith. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alex Tokash-Tyler. I'm the Senior Lead for Training and Development for Safer Places, which is domestic abuse charity, working with victims and survivors and the children. And I feel honoured to be here today, and thank you for your time this morning. I know it's December, everyone is trying to catch up before we have Christmas. So thank you for inviting me, and thank you that I can talk to you today. My presentation, Judith, if we can go, thank you. I want to start with talking about babies. Are they actually invisible victims of domestic abuse, and what does it mean, domestic abuse for babies? So thinking about domestic abuse, the statutory definition introduced by the Domestic Abuse Act 2021 tells us that domestic abuse happens between person A and B. They both 16 and over, personally connected to each other, and the behavior is abusive, and various different abusive behaviors as part of this definition. Physical, sexual, violent, threatening, controlling, coercive, economic abuse, psychological, emotional or other abuse. And it could be a single incident or a pattern of incidents. When it comes to that personal connection, the Act carries on with explaining what it means. People might be married to each other, civil partners of each other. It could be people have agreed to marry one another, intimate relationships, maybe they are relatives. Can I go to the next slide, please? So, is it then that domestic abuse is an adult issue? It's an easy assumption, especially when thinking about the public perception of domestic abuse and maybe children's invisibility, but no. Can we go to the, yes, thank you. Domestic Abuse Act 2021 changed a lot for victims and survivors of domestic abuse, and something that changed, it changed for children and ended up with me celebrating on that day very, very loudly, is the fact that for the first time in history, children are recognized in their own right as victims of domestic abuse. That means if a child sees, hears or experiences the effects of abuse and is related either to victim or perpetrator, is considered a victim. Now, I want you, if I can ask for the next slide, to think for a moment a child who experienced domestic abuse, a child who's seen, hear or heard, experienced the impact. Who do you see? What do they do? What do they look like? How many of you have imagined a baby? How often that public perception of domestic abuse creates bias in our heads, in our perception? How often that excludes some people from the story of domestic abuse? People very often say, babies affected? How? Judith, if we can go to the next slide. They didn't understand. They're small, right? They didn't see, they were upstairs, they were asleep. They didn't hear anything. They don't understand. They are too young cognitively. What are they gonna get from this? It's not possible that they understand what's going on in the house. They've never been hurt, they've never been touched. How can they be victims? They see it. Their children very easily and very quickly learn to recognize intimidating body language. They see their parents facial expressions. They see that when the parent victim has been hurt physically or emotionally, sexually in any way, they see that the way they express themselves. They hear it. Children easily learn to recognize specific tones of voice, hear shouting, they hear crying, and they're involved. Babies in safe parents' arms, being caught up in the fight or in an argument. They are prevented from forming secure attachments. The roles are actually reversed in domestic abuse situation. It's not about meeting the baby's needs, it's about the perpetrator's needs. And it doesn't, and when the baby's small, that still happens. We can go to the next slide. Domestic abuse, as you can see, experienced by individuals during pregnancy can shape baby's brain development. The University of Bath, working in collaboration with researchers from University of Cape Town, actually, have done analysis of brain scans of 143 South African infants whose mothers were subjected to intimate partner violence during pregnancy. And they have found that the brains of these babies could notice or could observe significant changes of these brains and the development that's happened already in the womb. Also, the Journal of Development Cognitive Neuroscience, the team reported maternal exposure to intimate partnered violence during pregnancy being associated with alterations in the brain structure in very young infants. If you go to the next slide. When we talk about trauma, and undeniably domestic abuse is a traumatic event that impacts those that are affected and causes trauma, that long-lasting emotional reaction. When we talk about children, when we talk about traumatic events in that rather crucial time in human development, which is most certainly childhood, especially infancy and early childhood, the term that we often use is the term of developmental trauma. That term refers to the complex exposure to life-threatening event, and the concept that is often discussed by Professor Bessem van der Kolk, that you can see on this line right now. If you have never heard of Professor Bessel van der Kolk, I would suggest please have a look. He's written a fantastic book. I've got it always next to me. Body Keeps the Score. And what trauma does to us, the impact of trauma, developmental trauma on a child, which is the next slide. Sorry. A comprehensive review of the various literature suggested that developmental trauma impacts 7 areas or 7 domains of our well-being, of our brain as well. It affects the attachment. That's the direct result of the experiences with a parent, and they are unable to form secure attachment. It can lead to sensory difficulties, sensory processing difficulties, where the children have dysfunctional or dysregulated sensory systems. It can lead to difficulties with emotional regulation, with behavioral regulation. Chronically traumatized children struggle to regulate their senses, their emotions, and therefore their behaviors. It can lead to dissociation, where the children who experience developmental trauma might suffer from emotional and physical numbness, that fogginess. They might, it could be an entire spectrum of behaviors, and that could be a way of coping with these overwhelming feelings and the trauma. It can lead to the changes in the cognition, and also it can severely impact the concept of self from that very early days of their life, when we learn as human beings through observational learning, when we look at people that matter in our lives, these caregivers, our parents. We learn about the world around us, we learn about the relationships with others, we learn how to maintain these relationships, how to manage conflict, how to express our emotions, and who I am in this life. And it all sounds quite negative if you think about this and think, gosh, what can we do about this then? If the impact is so great, what can we do? Well, the good news is, next slide, please, that with the right support, developmental trauma can be repaired. A lot of that is love. A lot of that is love and helping with that attachment. Things to consider. Next slide, please. When we think about helping children recover from experiences of developmental trauma, from experiences of domestic abuse, is to see them as humans that applying this trauma lens, see them as humans who's been through some things. And very often we think about children, well, you're 3 years old, you should be doing things, or you're 5 years old, or 10 years old, 17 years old, you should be doing things, because we see them through the lens of developmental, through chronological age rather than developmental age. If I experience trauma, my development might have been affected. So remember that when working with children, think about the fact that every person is different, every person is very unique, and be curious about their experiences, be curious about their behavior, look beyond the behavior. I always say every behavior is communication. And children's behaviors who experience trauma is probably the best adaptation to their life circumstances. Be curious rather than sometimes people say, what's the matter with you? Instead of that, let's ask, what happened? Who was there for you? What was the severity of trauma? What was the protective factors in your life as well? Any therapeutic interventions, which could be as simple as offering listening ear, as offering play, as offering attachment, as spending time together. Think about the environment in which you work with these children or support these children. We're talking about physical safety as well a lot when we think about health and safety cables, table desks and chairs and all of this in order for this to be safe. Think about emotional safety as well. The child needs to feel safe in order to be able to trust you. Show warmth, show acceptance. As I said, look beyond the behavior. Be predictable, create stabilities. People sometimes say to us when we work with children, oh, children don't like routines, they don't like boundaries. It's actually the opposite. Since boundaries and routines create sense of safety, predictability. You've been through something chaotic. Now it's something that is repetitive. Now it's something that is safe. Now it's something that you can predict. Think about therapeutic support being patterned and repetitive. I always say once a week is not enough, and that might not be something that you can offer as a service, as a support worker, as an intervention, because it's all down to what your service can do. But if you cannot offer that, support that non-abusive parent, support their family, think about how they can be active participants of this therapeutic support and what they can do. Give them tools, give them knowledge, give them skills so they can carry on with the same message at home when working with children and young people. If you want to know more about supporting children affected by domestic abuse, we offer a whole range of courses. This is actually one of the requirements when people work for Safer Places, domestic abuse services, working with children and young people. They all come and do our level 3 qualification, children domestic abuse advocate, because we believe if they're being seen as victims in legislation, it means they have voice. It means they need to be supported. It means they need to be heard. So on that, I think that's the end of my presentation, and that's leading to Hannah.
Thank you so much, Alex. Really insightful and powerful slides there. Thank you. Yeah, we're going to hand over to Hannah seamlessly.
Hi, I'm sorry, I've just popped in the chat. My little one's really, really upset and he's just stopped screaming. Alex, are you able to deliver my slides? I'm so sorry, everybody. I'll introduce myself and I'll have to disappear.
Yeah, are you okay with that, Alex? Or do you want me to read through them? Are you happy? Alex, you're on mute.
Sorry, always happens. Someone's always on mute. Yes, I'm happy to do that.
Sorry, thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Hannah, and hope your little one is okay. Can't be
Thank
helped.
you.
We are talking about babies today, so
you.
we have to look after our own babies. And thanks, Alex. I'll move through those for you. Okay.
So it was going to be Hannah. Well, you've got me for a few more minutes then. So as I said, I was saying about the children's domestic abuse qualification, domestic abuse advocates, and how they are present in the safe accommodation when families come work and live with us in the refuge. If we go to the next slide, I believe. So, domestic abuse charity. We are based in. Well, we have office in Essex. We have services in Hertfordshire. We have safe accommodation in Essex as well. Multiple services. We have safe accommodation for mothers with children. We have safe accommodation for male victims of domestic abuse. We have also spaces for people with no recourse to public funds and many more. In some areas of Hertfordshire, we also have community services when we work with standard and medium risk clients. We have our training team. That's me and my colleagues. The training is nationwide. But we work, and we're very proud of saying we training by Frontline for Frontline. So all of us have experience of working with victims and survivors of domestic abuse, and therefore we still use the services of Safer Places to inform our training. We've got support for clients coming through our service. It's tailored to their needs. We see every family as a very unique unit, and each members of that family are being assessed individually for their needs and for the wishes and the risks maybe that are very personalized to their experiences. We've got our Triple R program, which is the recovery program for adult victims, but something that Hannah would probably be very happy to tell you, but she can't, is that we have recently also developed a program for children, which is called Triple H. Help, Hope, Heal, where we work with children of various ages, when we create this opportunity for them and a forum for them to share their worries, for them to talk, to share the voices, and for these voices to be heard. How do we support babies, though? You might think, what can you do with babies in safe accommodation? It's actually quite a complex process for all families coming to our safe accommodation. When we think about families with children under the age of 2, we starting from preparation before they even arrive. When we receive a new refuge referral, we obviously gather all of the information. We see about the accessibility needs. We see about the ages of children. We see about the specific needs and what needs to be done. Obviously, you update this on the system. The accommodation is as well adapted to the needs of that family. We've got cots for babies. We've got special, we've got tools, blankets, bottles, whatever is needed and is on that referral form, it will be provided for families coming to our refuge. Then we have initial meetings and initial assessment with our clients. It's a holistic process, a very thorough process. A lot of questions are being asked, which we can sometimes break into smaller chunks. How we do this meeting. Usually we do the meeting with a parent. However, that depends on the age of the child. Obviously, with children under 2, so in that pre-verbal phase, that meeting will be happening with parent, but obviously we'll also use our specialist knowledge when it comes to assessment, visual assessment of a baby. We work very closely with health visitors or midwives, depending on the child's baby's age, and health services in the local area. So they help us measure the needs of the children. Every single family coming through our services will have a support plan completed, a risk assessment first, safety plan completed, and support plan completed. We also, as I mentioned, part of this support plan is working with other services. We offer services within refuge. We have baby groups. We do one-to-one work if that's needed, if that's preferred by clients. But we also work with family wellbeing centres. They used to be known as children's centres, local libraries. We've got that quite extensive knowledge of local services that will be suitable for parents with children under 2. All of the support is being reviewed usually every 6 weeks, unless there is some new circumstances. We have open door policy in all of our offices. People can come in anytime they want. They can have informal chat. We can have a bit more structured support if required. We do these weekly activities, as I mentioned. Our aim is to strengthen the connection between the non-abusive parent and the child. With parents of children as young as under 2, we teach them about nurturing, contact, eye contact, picking up babies when they cry, reading through children's behaviors as well. What does it mean when baby behaves this way? Helping them as well with self-care, and that sometimes feels like a bit patronizing. Oh, you need to take care of yourself. It's very difficult when you have a small child, so we understand that, and we're trying to adapt this so it feels like achievable task for parents who's been through something as horrendous as domestic abuse, now have been rehoused. They need new accommodation with different people, sometimes it's communal refuge, and they have a baby. This support, after people move out of our secure accommodation, this doesn't mean that our support finishes. We either refer it to more appropriate service, or if they stay within our local area, that support continues for them. Next slide, please. I think there are some examples of work of what we can do. Obviously not limited just to these, but this is something that we do most of the time. We focus on the work with parents, we work with health visitors, we support free play, that visibility of the children and young people's practitioners and family practitioners within the safe accommodation is quite crucial. So they are there constantly creating the spaces as like a family. Well, we say this is all about making them feel welcomed, and us also role modeling appropriate contact with children and babies. We offer Health Start vouchers. We help with child benefit applications. We do the RRR program with parents. Part of that program is 3 weeks on the impact of domestic abuse on children and how to be with children, how to rebuild that connection, as I mentioned. Children's centres, one-to-one sessions, trips and days out, which is probably my favourite part of working in the safe accommodations, when we can go somewhere and how happy people are when we do that. Nursery applications and supporting that education from early on. And as you can see, relationship building sessions, many more. We also go out with families to visit the local community settings. I believe there is a case study next. You can see it's a rather small font. Mother arrived at refuge with her young son, who was almost 17 months old. Upon arrival, mother presented as extremely overwhelmed. After taking a couple of days off to settle into refuge and complete her arrival paperwork, mum and child moved the child and family worker. Here, the initial assessment was completed. Referral form. During the initial assessment, mum stated that her son was always asleep when the abuse was happening. The child and family worker explained to mum that all children are still able to hear what's going on and still affected by domestic abuse, even if they are not awake in the room. So, kind of referring to what I've said before. Mum explained to her mum that her son was attending in the previous area and really enjoyed it. Mum consented to the nursery application for the refuge area, and she would like to keep the routine for him. So you can see all of the stages of the support, what was happening. We always work together with parents. We try to empower them to make informed choices. You can see that it extended. It wasn't just the application to local nursery, but obviously there was that health visitor appointments being booked, children's centres, rhyme sessions, one-to-one session with mum as well. Mum who is still in the refuge, the boy is thriving. Mum feels that she developed confidence after attending, receiving support. The boy has also developed confidence to attend sessions without mum. Bedtime routine is better. It's all progress, but everything seems to be positive. And lastly, just some feedback from our families. As you can see, it's not just us saying how fantastic it is. We also have families sharing with us that the help they receive from our workers, hopefully is going to be long-term confidence to be with children. We always say shower them with love. You can't break children by loving them. There are some things that maybe you need to remember about the boundaries and routines, but just love children and show them that love. And we hopefully create that safe environment where people feel I can finally be a person I want to be and a parent I want to be, and for my child to feel accepted. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alex, and for stepping in, for Hannah. Brilliantly delivered those slides, and great. Now it takes us seamlessly on to hear from Becca, who I'm going to leave to introduce herself from the For Baby's Sake Trust. Thanks, Becca.
Thanks, Judith. I'm Becca Butterworth, a therapeutic practitioner with For Baby's Sake, and I've been with the Trust since its launch in 2015. I'm very passionate about nurturing the development of young children and supporting families, and I've worked in this field for over 30 years now. My background is in primary education, and I have a deep understanding of the foundation years and the critical role that they play in our children's lives. And I'm just going to talk today about the work of For Baby's Sake in addressing the profound impact that trauma has on unborn babies and infant development. Okay, next slide. The For Baby's Sake Trust is the charity responsible for creating and delivering For Baby's Sake, which is an evidence-based therapeutic trauma-informed programme. So we know that early intervention and trauma-informed support is crucial for mitigating the long-term impact of infant trauma. For Baby's Sake supports parents who are experiencing domestic abuse to strengthen their bond with their infants beginning in pregnancy. And we do this through a sensitive trauma-informed approach that addresses both safety and emotional needs of parents and the children. And this is illustrated in the next video. I'm going to show. There we go.
Thanks. And apologies, sorry, Becca, just apologise for those that the sound or wasn't quite right for them, but we will share the link. Thanks,
Absolutely. It's quite a powerful video, that, isn't it? And it re-emphasises the fact that For Baby's Sake starts in pregnancy. And a key part For Baby's Sake is encouraging that attachment-focused parenting right from pregnancy. Practitioners are helping and guiding and teaching attachment basics, and this helps parents to understand the importance of the consistent nurturing care in their infant's development. Building positive interactions fosters responsiveness, and it improves communication between parents and children. Understanding babies' cues, how they express hunger, tiredness, or discomfort, helps parents to feel more connected and confident, and that further builds on that attachment. Domestic abuse disrupts parent-child relationships, and it causes children to experience anxiety, fear, and insecurity. If they feel unsafe around or unsupported by their primary caregivers, they struggle to form trusting relationships and may develop avoidant or anxious attachment patterns. The importance of these really early interactions are further illustrated in the next video that I'm going to show. Okay, so these are some of the key findings from research. So key research findings suggest there's a significant risk that children who witness or experience domestic abuse will either replicate these patterns in their future relationships or continue to struggle with emotional well-being throughout their adulthood. Witnessing conflict without resolution can normalize harmful relationship dynamics, and it makes it harder for these children to recognize and establish healthy relationships later on in life. Chronic stress from early exposure to domestic abuse affects children's physical health. It can contribute to issues like poor immune function, developmental delays, and higher likelihood of chronic diseases in adulthood due to the physiological toll that ongoing stress takes on the body. Next slide, please. Children in abusive homes are significantly higher risk of developing emotional and behavioural disorders, including depression, aggression, and oppositional defiant disorders. A highly sensitized stress response system leads to difficulties in managing emotions and impulses, and that will manifest itself as aggression towards peers or withdrawal from social interactions, and it really impacts on children's academic success as well. Early exposure to trauma disrupts the development of healthy coping mechanisms. Such children often display either a heightened sensitivity or emotional numbness, and that's all as a defense against the recurring trauma. And they may struggle with self-soothing or might act out to communicate their distress when they are in that pre-verbal stage and they can't verbalize what they're feeling. So next slide, please, Judith. Thanks. So in sort of summing up my piece of work, I just want to point out the unique features of For Baby's Sake. We show a commitment to adhering to the robust, collaborative and comprehensive safeguarding policies and procedures that underpin our approach. So safety for the whole family is a real priority whenever we're working with families. Attachment-focused parenting from pregnancy and working with the whole family underpins our approach. And we work with the babies up until they reach the age of 2, as we know that the care given during this time has a greater influence on a child's future than at any other time in their life. And then I'm going to just touch on the newborn behavioural observations and the VIG that we do that complement the delivery of the programme. The ENBO is an opportunity to explore babies' behaviour with parents. It helps parents to interpret their baby's behaviour, consider how babies communicate with them and how best to support their needs. And we also use video interactive guidance that gives parents opportunity to guided opportunity to reflect on their interactions with their baby through video clips. And that's what my colleague Andrew is going to go on to discuss with you in a bit. Okay.
Lovely. Thanks very much, Becca.
Thanks.
Brilliant.
Thank
and some
you.
great videos there. And as Daisy's put in, we will be sharing those. So thank you so much. I'm going to hand over to Andy to introduce himself and build on that work. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Judith. Yes, so good morning. I'm Andrew Eaton. I'm like Becca, I'm also a therapeutic practitioner at For Baby's Sake. I've been with For Baby's Sake for nearly 4 years now. And I'm just, as Becca said, I'm just going to talk specifically about the intervention, which is video interaction guidance. So what is VIG? Well, it's a strength-based brief intervention that promotes attunement, sensitivity, and mentalization in relationships. The principles and practice can be used to work with in any relationship. So obviously we specifically use it with parents and their infants, but it can be used much wider in professional environments. We also can use VIG with babies and unborn babies. So we use it both postnatally and antenatally as well. So as VIG is used in a variety of contexts, including health, schools and social care. So professionals use it in interactions between colleagues, maybe senior teachers working with junior teachers. It can be used with the elderly, dementia services and perinatal mental health. So as Becca mentioned, we integrate both newborn behavioural observations and VIG into the programme to encourage attuned interactions and developing nurturing connections. So EMBO is newborn behavioural observations, are specifically 18 neuro behavioural observations that we make with newborn babies between 0 and 3 months. And with EMBO, it's started a process where parents begin to see their babies as a person capable of engaging in reciprocal interactions. So as it says there, this is based on assumptions that infants are social beings ready to communicate. Babies communicate through their behavior, and infants' communication is not random, it's intentional. So why does VIG work? Well, it encourages sensitivity to the baby. It opens the client to start thinking about themselves, their child, their relationship, and the possibilities for change. Promotes attunement, empathy, and emotional regulation. It maximizes the release of oxytocin to assist in achieving change, in helping parents become more sensitive and in tune to their baby and child's emotional needs. It enhances reflective functioning and enhances mind-mindedness. So this is about starting to think about their child as an individual with the mind, rather than just an entity whose needs need to be met. And so there's the values and beliefs. So the values of respect, trust, hope, compassion, cooperation, appreciation, connection, and empathy, and the beliefs that everybody's doing the best that they can at the time. All people, even in adverse situations, have the capacity to change, innate desire to connect with others, actively involved in their own change process, and affirmation and appreciation of strengths is the key to supporting change. And finally, by recognizing and having empathetic regard for what people are managing, we build a trusting relationship. And that's certainly what we hope to do as practitioners. So how does the VIG process work? Well, the VIG practitioner begins by helping the family or professional to negotiate a helping question linked to their goals. So it may be, typically in the work that we do, what am I doing to build a close relationship with my child? We then take a video of the interaction between the parent and the child. I will then, or the practitioner will then take away that video and microanalyze the video, and we're editing it to create clips of attuned moments. So there's exceptional moments of attunement. Then the VIG practitioner and the client view and explore the clips together in what we call a shared review. The VIG practitioner receives the client's ideas, which we called initiatives, and together we notice and build on the client's strengths and co-create new ideas. To wrap up, this is our principles of attunement that we share with parents and explore, what they're doing well. So we encourage them to be attentive. So this wait, watch, and wonder, just being curious about what's going on for their child, encouraging those initiatives and receiving those initiatives. So these encouraging these serve and return interactions with their baby.
Lovely, thanks Andy. And as I saw the comments coming in there, so impactful, and that is the video interaction guidance work that we do with both parents separately, but you can see how impactful that is for the dads that very often are not able to access such support, especially where there's domestic abuse. Thank you so much, Andy. And now I'm going to hand over, and that's the end of the presentations, but we've got some moments now to see if there's any questions, Daisy.
Hi Judith, thank you, and thank you to all of our speakers. It was so wonderful to hear from you, and thank you to our audience. All of your comments, we've been reading them all, and it's so wonderful to see such positive response. We only have a couple of questions, which is handy because we're obviously edging towards the end of the session. So in the interest of brevity, I'll get going. But the first one is from Marie, and this came in during Alex's presentation. And Marie asks, would you recommend using TheraPlay with non-abusive parent to help with healing the relationship?
That's an interesting question. Thank you. I myself, I'm not a TheraPlay practitioner. However, my understanding of TheraPlay is introducing play as a form of reconnecting parents with the children. If that's the case, absolutely yes. Majority of our work as well within safe accommodation, and when we work with families, outreach families, is about strengthening that relationship and introducing play, and actually the whole concept, how do you play with children, and not just how we call it sofa parenting, when sometimes parents feel like this is what I do. It's about interaction with children and playing with children. So yes, I would say, yeah, why not?
Thank you so much, Alex. And we've just had a last minute question come in, which I think is really interesting. It'd be good to give some space to it. So Maria asks, does the DA Act, the Domestic Abuse Act, with respect to children as victims in their own right, also apply to those living with foster carers?
doesn't mean that the child affected by domestic abuse is currently in foster care. Yes,
I think
yes.
that's what she means. Yes.
Well, yes, those children should still, in my eyes, they should still be supported. The support for children out in the community is slightly disjointed at the moment, but I think there was earlier question as well about secure accommodations and refuge. Domestic Abuse Act, there is a statutory guidance together with the Domestic Abuse Act that underpins what local authorities need to provide in terms of accommodation-based support for victims of domestic abuse, and that involves adults and children. So yes, when it comes to outreach support services, we still got a long way to go to ensure the support, but you know, services like For Baby's Sake are doing something incredible, and I can only hope for the Baby's Sake to be nationwide service. That's all, and other services line up. So yes.
Thank you, Alex. But yes, speaking our language. And I think Maria
Daisy
did say, followed up with saying,
oh yeah, go on Daisy.
Sorry, Judith.
Apologies.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, no,
No
I was just going to
worries
say,
at all.
I think the follow-up question was, with the child, the baby or the child being the victim, it's in their own right, whether, you know, whoever they're in the care of, if they can be a victim. So it's not related to a parent as a victim, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
What the
looks
question
like
was. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like we were going to say the exact same thing, Judith.
Yeah.
And then going to squeeze in one final question. So Lauren in the Q&A asked, how is VIG accessed by families? So it could be one for you, Andy.
Yeah, so if you go on the AVIG UK website, it gives you lots of info. They're the organisation that does our accreditation. So that's where I did my accreditation to become a VIG practitioner. I would recommend that you go on there and it tells you how you can access VIG practitioners or access training as far as the IG is concerned.
Great, thank you, Andy. And again, thank you for all of your.
I think, sorry, Daisy. I just think.
Go back.
I think VIG is also being rolled out along the health visitors are also accessing to that, and the perinatal mental health team also have VIG practitioners as well.
Yeah,
so that's another way of accessing that kind of service.
And part of the Better Start for Life, I'm going to get that wrong, someone can correct me. So also social workers and in family hubs as well. So it's brilliant that the IG or VIG, it's called both times, is available to so many more parents. But yeah, within For Baby's Sake, it's really one of the factors that we deliver that really has, you know, that impact starting in the womb.
Great, thank you all. I'm so sorry for speaking over you. I've got a bit of an internet issue thanks to Storm Dara, so I've got a bit of a lag. But again, thank you for all of the wonderful comments coming in. I mean, it's great to hear so much support for Baby's Sake, and that the the webinar has been really valuable to you. And just to refer to the screen that hopefully you can all currently see, we're really proud to run these webinars for free. It's really great to connect across our network and to be sharing the knowledge, and we're really passionate about making those links across the sector. This week, as many charities we're taking part in Big Give's Christmas Challenge, which means that any donations made to us through Big Give will be doubled. If you give £1, we get £2